Now, workers from South Africa's mainly white Solidarity Union have staged a go-slow protest at the petrochemical firm Sasol. The move was prompted by a share scheme offered exclusively to black staff. South African companies are required to meet quotas on black ownership, employment and procurement as part of a drive to reverse decades of exclusion under apartheid. Now, Sasol says that the scheme is not a benefit, but a mechanism designed to meet the rules on black economic empowerment in the country. Here's Angelo Coppola now joining us in Johannesburg with more on this issue. Angelo, it's always good to see you. Now, as we mentioned there, companies in South Africa are required to meet quotas by law on black ownership. In light of this, what is Solidarity's specific issues with Sasol's share ownership scheme?
Well, look, the main issue that appears to be that the white staffers were included in the previous share ownership scheme at Sasol, and they're now being excluded from the second phase along with foreign workers. So most of Solidarity's members at Sasol are white. There aren't any foreign members that belong to them. In a briefing note, Solidarity does say that Sasol has a history of inclusiveness and now appears that the company is moving away from that approach. Solidarity also says that its members are being discriminated against, strangely enough. It goes on to say that the scheme is contrary to a proviso in the draft mining charter, which we know is about to be finalized, which in it says that white employees can't be excluded from any share options or any share staff schemes. The union also says that the Sasol scheme is in direct violation of the Mining Empowerment Charter and also general practices at mines in South Africa. Ucha?
Well, Angelo, Sasol actually says it will listen to these unions on their concerns, but it won't change the prerequisites for inclusion in this share scheme. So do you see a compromise ahead? Are we going to see a deal being worked out? What's your expectation?
Well, look, it seems as if Sasol is going to go ahead and exclude those white and foreign workers from this latest share ownership scheme. There's no question that that's their position at the moment. It doesn't appear that they're in a negotiating frame of mind. The management will be prepared to negotiate. Well, probably not, because the bottom line is that negotiations have been going on for some time, and this is the end result of those negotiations. So there doesn't appear there's a hardening of positions, in fact, and that's because that discussion has been ongoing for some time, and in fact Solidarity appears to have taken a slightly different approach. It's been to NEDLAC to try and get a permission to go on a full legal strike. NEDLAC have said no, and Solidarity are now going to challenge that decision in the courts during the course of the week. So it looks like there's a hardening of positions between the two as we stand right now, Ucha.
Well, this certainly raises questions of how much of a blow this will have on the company's operations. Of course, as you mentioned, the union does say it intends to switch off a different section at different plants each day. So how much of a blow do you expect this to have on the company's operations?
Well, look, the union is calling their approach a clever strike. Can they do it? Most probably. Will they do it? Possibly, if their demands aren't met. The company is being a bit tight-lipped, saying only that it's got contingency plans in place. It's not going into any detail. Meanwhile, analysts aren't sure how that's going to play out. We know that guerrilla tactics can be successful, and there is an issue, though, because company workers will have a hard time identifying and stopping those Solidarity members from interrupting operations, because it'll be a hit and miss as you go along. And this could be a conflict situation that could turn violent, quite frankly, something that both sides are going to do well to consider. It's volatile and it has to be carefully dealt with, Ucha.
It's quite a sensitive issue, Angelo, and Solidarity did mention they're also planning a national protest. So could this be the start of a much wider movement against these black empowerment share schemes in the country?
Well, look, as far as can be ascertained, the issue really that Solidarity has is that its members have been excluded from this phase 2 of the share ownership scheme. They don't seem to have an issue with black empowerment share options or black empowerment schemes per se. Could this be the start of a wider national movement against BE schemes? That appears unlikely, I'm told, but many will be watching how this week plays out. Solidarity plans to get its members to hand over those memorandums to approximately 100 or so businesses across the country looking for support for the Solidarity action at Sasol. Of course, analysts will be watching what happens in and around Secunda and Sasolburg. Those are the two towns where the big Sasol plants are. That happened on Thursday. There's also a community rally that's going to be taking place, as well as that all-out strike. And many will be monitoring whether Solidarity delivers on its threat to shut down those critical parts of the Sasol operations. Of course, there are many others who will be watching the company share price in the coming days to see what it's due and maybe take advantage.
Well, we'll certainly be watching too. Many thanks, Angelo, as always, for that update. Angelo Coppola joining us there in Johannesburg.